Yeah, we were just talking about boats and talking about old Valcos, and I totally relate because that was my first boat. Tricked out, $200 boat I picked up off of Craigslist from some dude in Big Bear.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know how I trailered that thing home, like down that mountain. Like, it was sketchy, you know, but first thing I did was throw a deck on it, got a 55-pound thrust trolling motor, and I took it fishing just like that. And I caught a swimbait fish the first time out at Pudding Stone. Like, it was sick.
And you'll never forget that.
I never will. And, you know, coming up through this game, from being a shore angler to a float tuber to, you know, renting a boat when we could afford one, and dealing with boat positioning in the wind and no trolling motor and drift fishing and all that stuff now, you know, that's available to guys with the power poles and the talons and the spot lock technology on the trolling motors. I'm glad I didn't have any of that when I was growing up, because I have such an appreciation for what that technology is and can do and how to efficiently use it, you know, because we may do without it for so many years.
Exactly. We were fishing with like a crutch, so to speak. But
yeah.
We really didn't realize what was coming and what was available. And then it all evolved into technology and learning the equipment, spending the time and learning your equipment, which today people don't do.
They don't.
And go back to basics. You know, back when Lawrence came out with the rafts, there were times I would go out and meter for 4 or 5 hours and just absorb what I've been looking at on a flasher for years, and to see it on paper, oh, it was amazing.
The paper graph.
That does not lie.
These kids don't even know what a paper graph is. Look at this stud. And dude, you're a tournament guy through and through, but you are no stranger to big fish.
No, actually, a lot of the weigh-ins and guys would be always waiting for me to come in and weigh in at the end, and everybody thought I was going to come in with a big fish. And
yeah,
smash
you're that guy.
But actually, I had my moments, and I actually caught my share of them and got a lot of big fish checks, you know. And just, you know, that one other bite to really get in there and take that boat. You know, I've been a bridesmaid, but to get that boat, you know, I look back now at some of the things that I woulda, coulda, shoulda done, but you know, it's all about learning. It truly is. It's all about learning.
Does the learning ever stop?
Never.
Did you ever completely figure it out?
Never. Never. And I never will.
That's right.
I never will. And you have to humble yourself and realize, you know what? Yeah, that little bass with that pea brain it's got inside of them, we're all smarter grown.
Gets the best of us.
But that's the whole thing. That's the drive. You know, that's the whole drive, is getting out there and just capture it and do what you can and make the best of it. And that's all you can do, you know, and realize that, you know, like I keep saying, you only get what you put into. Put more effort, more drive, push, and you'll succeed.
I think you did that.
That's what I truly do. Well, you know, timing is important, and you know all about that, Oliver. You got to follow moon phases, weather. We got to be good weathermen, and we need to just follow all those things. And when you capture that perfect moment, that storm, and I call it the perfect storm, between the moon and weather, time of year, you got to be there. If you don't get out there in that window of opportunity, you will miss out. And there's a few guys that only capture that and know and are able to get out there then. And we got another telemarketer here bothering us.
This is a real flashback to the past here. Oh man.
Yeah.
That's great.
I gotta get back to cooking.
Man, let's look through the old photo album. Man, show you guys some history right here.
That's a 60-pound limit right there. That's 60 pounds right there.
What was that big one?
That was 27 pounds.
Good grief. What year is that? Do you remember?
That would have been in That would have been 93.
93. Pyramid?
Pyramid Lake, 1993.
Back when these 10 to 12s were the schoolies, huh?
Yes, 10 to 12 pounders were average fish.
That's crazy. Must have had a good stylist back in the day, brother. Still looking fresh.
Got to keep it.
I feel you. Look at
Gotta
this
keep
big
it.
sack.
Still rebelling.
Jeez. Whoa. Toothy one.
Lake, yes, that was Rainy River.
Minnesota?
Rainy River, right above Minnesota. Yeah.
That's sick. Yeah, that's been a new experience for me the last year or so. All these toothy critters, walleye, these beautiful brown things I've fallen in love with. So sick. That was like hysteric. Back in the day. Oh. It's almost like I can tell when I'm looking at a Casitas bass. You know, those fish are
Florida's.
unique. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they were very distinctive. But typically, when I was doing a lot of fishing, tournament fishing, it was like, you know, I really didn't get the pre-spawn. I didn't get a lot of pre-spawn moments down here. I was always fishing up north. I was fishing all the lakes up north. So I missed out on a lot of the pre-spawn down here. So I never caught a lot of those big females like I could have, you know, if I would have been out there.
Yes. We just posted a video the other day talking about, okay.
There's a 10 right there.
No kidding.
There's a 10 power worm back in the day, yeah.
Well, I caught my very first bass on a power worm.
There you go.
4-inch power worm, man.
And that original formula was the best they ever had. Unfortunately, they changed the formula, but that was the deal back then, the original formula.
Well, you know, that's been kind of an ongoing theme for us. So tell me about your first bass fishing memory or your first bass, if you would.
Wow.
Break it down, man. Because this is a fascinating story, no matter who tells it.
I'll tell you, first bass, that was at Hanson Dam. That was in probably 1970, and that was in the San Fernando Valley, not far from Pacoima right there, and I had to be 12 years old.
Okay.
And just fishing out there, and I remember we used rooster tails, we used just simple spinners, and I remember catching like a 4-pound bass on a spinning rod off the bank.
Were you trout fishing or were you bass fishing? You're just fishing.
I'm fishing, but rooster tails back then, trout, bass, didn't matter. And I like both, you know, but once I caught that 4-pounder, oh my gosh, I'll never forget that. And I looked at it and just kept admiring it and let it go. Didn't weigh it, but I know it was a big fish, and I was hooked. You know, I was truly hooked, and I believe that from there on, I had no idea, but it was in my blood already. From I was just a little guy, I was always attracted to water, creeks, minnows, you know, with the net, trying to catch them, and it just evolved, and I just kept going the drive, and then being introduced to an older gentleman that took me out. He'd take me fishing. I was introduced to Lake Castaic, when it was not even full. They were still putting water in the lake, and that was 1972. We were fishing that lake, fishing back then when there was timber 30, 40 feet tall.
Wow. And it grew and blew up into all this. It became a lifestyle, huh?
There's a 10 and change right there on the mini shaker. And I'll tell you, some of these fish, and I'll show you a little bit later on some of the baits that we use to catch giants in the day. In fact,
Yeah,
there might be a bait hanging there. The mini shaker, California worms, little small 3.5 inch bait that was just dynamite, caught giants. In fact, that fish right there was caught on a mini shaker in a Pro-Am tournament at Cass Stake back in, gosh, I got to date myself here. That was back around 1995.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, just the build on these fish is insane. All started with the rooster tail, huh?
Yeah, rooster tail. And then I remember even when Bill Dance came out here, I believe it was in 72, 73. Bill came out here and did a seminar at a tackle store out in Reseda. In fact, it's a Turner store out there in Reseda. That store, Bill Dance came out and did a swing. He did the West Coast swing out here, and I met Bill. In fact, Bill brought out his blueback diamond worms that were unbelievable. They were like pieces of licorice. They were transparent worms. He had a black worm. Those worms were so new to us. I took them to Cass Stake and smoked them.
Wow.
Smoked them. If I brought out a worm today like that, people would say, "What?" But literally,
I bet you they'd still bite it.
They'll bite it. But that's what we had to fish with, and the results, I mean, were phenomenal. And come back to this day, just a simple blue worm.
So cool to go back down memory lane. Look at that Adidas shirt.
Yeah, that was 1979. 78, 79. That was my first big northern on Piru back in the day. Yeah. That I caught on a jig. That was my first jig fish.
Wow.
I was pre-fishing for the Delta back in the day, and fishing my pulsator spinner baits.
Okay.
That was the deal back then. The Nichols pulsator spinner baits was one of my go-to and one of my sponsors.
Nice. Oh, nice.